Hello everyone, I'm H.A.K, and if you want to know what that stands for and what in the world it has to do with my intro, feel free to ask me. Yes, the original Spider-Man trilogy. The first two ended up pretty decent movies, but then the third one kept raping Spider-Man again and again, with Peter whining, Venom having not so grand design, and even then was hardly seen at all, and then, of course, that dance scene. Excuse me. And since then, it seems like it was going to be a long time, if ever, that they would ever give us a truly more developed and truly more loyal movie of Spider-Man than the second movie, especially after the Spider-Man musical.
Let's get your freak on! I'm not rolling, baby, rolling in the green, but I'm unique. I'm free. I'm the new Coney Island and all around the world. The weirdos from out of town and all the freaks. Always around. All the weirdos in the world.
God freaking! Green Goblin is not obsessed with being a freak! He took over America for a while, for heaven's sakes! This is not Green Goblin! Excuse me? Just little Spider-Man raping here and there, still getting me a little. But now we have come to Amazing Spider-Man. Did it turn out the way we wanted it to go? There's only one way to find out. So here's my video review of The Amazing Spider-Man. So the story of The Amazing Spider-Man is, wait, if you haven't seen the movie and don't want to know what the plot is, that's fine. Just go to this particular section on the timeline and you'll be just fine. Anyway, the story is about Peter Parker, who is a high schooler who lives with his aunt and uncle after his parents died, where one day he finds this bag that used to be his dad's, where inside he finds a couple of stuff that's connected to his dad's former partner, Dr. Kirk Connors, who currently is working at Oscorp Industries. So he sneaks his way into Oscorp to try to meet the guy, but along the way he gets bitten by this radioactive spider, which gives him spider powers, which, surprising no one, ends up with him eventually becoming Spider-Man. I'm just gonna say it, this is without a doubt the best Spider-Man movie they've made yet. I mean, don't get me wrong, the first Spider-Man movies were pretty well done, even though they were a little corny at some points and stuff. But on a whole, this was like Chris Columbus being replaced as the director of the Harry Potter movies. He did a good job, but it was past time and to move on and take things to the next level. And they've done an excellent job with doing just that. I mean, the action was excellent, the comedy was pretty darn good, it was all around very, very loyal to the comics, even more so at some points that I actually found pretty surprising in a good way. The romance was wonderful, and the characters were just very, very well done. But there are quite a few issues to the movie. For example, warning, spoiler alert, so if you do not want to know, just go to this particular section on the timeline so you can skip all this. Anyway, the first issue I have is that during the second half of the movie, Peter keeps taking his mask off. It made sense in a few points, like, you know, it's forced off at one point, and he doesn't try to trust a kid at another point, which I will get to. But then there's stuff like when he's about to follow Lizard, right after he fights him at his high school, it's all of a sudden just off right after fighting him, and he's keeping it off while he's going into the sewers and trying to find him. It's just why? It doesn't make sense. There's no purpose. He still has an identity to keep. I mean, the Lizard may know, but still, it's better safe than sorry when it comes to whether or not to wear that mask. And then we have Peter Parker skateboarding. this is probably a just me kind of issue, right? And this is coming out from me being a die-hard Spider-Man fan, if you will. I admit that it makes sense to try to make him even more... Try to make him more realistic in the sense that he really is a high schooler who just happened to have this kind of thing happen to him. But, I don't know, it felt off. It felt out of place to have Peter Parker, aka Spider-Man, have a skateboard. It's just really off to me. Again, this is from my point of view as a big fan of Spider-Man. So it's not entirely a big deal because, again, it makes sense. And heck, it was there for a very short time in the movie, which is perfectly fine with me. But that was just my personal issue as a fan of Spider-Man. And then there's the scene where he unmasks himself to try to get the kid he's trying to save to trust him. I like it, but it's been done, but... Well, let me put it this way. A couple of weeks ago, I went through the Batman Beyond series to kind of prepare for The Dark Knight Rises. And there was an actual episode, this was like the last kind of official episode of Batman Beyond, where Batman unmasks himself to try to get a kid to trust him because he was intimidated by his costume or something like that. So he was trying to save him from a fiery building, and he ended up needing to unmask him to try to trust him, to say, see, I'm your average guy. I'm a normal guy. I'm just, being a superhero. So I would have found it original when I saw this movie if I had not seen that only 2-ish weeks ago. And granted, this was kind of better because it was kind of slower, it was a little more developed, and you kind of have to like how he was kind of trying to comfort him with stuff like even letting him wear his mask while he's still trying to rescue him. But considering that it's been done before, I feel like going really to the creators of the film, because it seems like they may have seen that particular episode of Batman Beyond and decided to put that in Amazing Spider-Man, which, as far as copying and stuff, it is quite a bit of a down. It was a nice scene, but still. And then there's the fact that there are a lot of points where people could have put 2 and 2 together that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. And it's like, why do you still destroy stuff? I mean, sure, it's still accidental, but every time it keeps happening, it's like you'd think people would sooner or later start putting 2 and 2 together, and you would have to try to become more responsible, old Peter Parker / Spidey style, the way we all know and love him. But he didn't, and that's like, sure, it's fine that nobody figures it out, but it seems like, why aren't people putting 2 and 2 together with the fact that he's destroying a basketball basket and whatever you call the thing they use for extra points for and field goals for football, and it doesn't make sense. So epic plot hole with that. But my biggest, and I mean biggest, absolute issue with this movie that I had long before they've had like their second or third trailer or anything, was the design for Lizard. It's not Lizard. It's like the Lizard, but he has the head of a Goomba from the Mario movie. It was that poorly done. I mean, the sad thing is if you've seen the movie Zathura, where they have these aliens called Zorgons, which are basically these lizard creatures, they actually had a pretty accurate way of actually making them look like lizards. As far as I'm concerned, they're making a bad kids movie with Kristen Stewart, mind you, look good. Granted, she actually was a decent actress and stuff like that with that movie, but that doesn't excuse the fact that they did a poor job in choosing the design for the Lizard at all. Although on the bright side, at least we actually see him, unlike Venom in the third movie, so at the same time, who am I to entirely complain? Nah, screw it, I still hate it. But nevertheless, it may be hard to adapt for other people who are very familiar with the original series, but it's a lot of fun, and it's just all around an excellent movie to take Spider-Man to the next level the way a lot of us want it to.